If logic were man-made like a ruler, it wouldn't be universal or binding. It would just be convention. But you expect your logic to apply to me everywhere, always. That's not human invention. That's an immaterial, unchanging standard. And only the Christian God provides a foundation for that. So you're using God's tools while denying his toolbox. What up? Hey, Tab. Good morning. Happy Saturn Day. Do you guys know all the days of the week are named after planets? Well, Monday is the moon. Tuesday is Mars. Wednesday is oh crap. What is Wednesday? Wednesday is Mercury. Thursday Thursday is Jupiter. Friday is Venus. Saturday Saturn. Sunday the sun. Did y'all know that? Moon Day, yep. The moon it's the because that's the like the pagan gods where when they look at the stars. So the goddess, the moon is the goddess. The moon represents the goddess, the female, like the female energy, which is funny because the moon is linked with female cycles. Like the moon has a 28-day cycle, which is similar to the female menstruation cycle, which is typically also 28 days. And the moon, it receives light from the sun. So that's why it's like considered feminine, right? Because during like intercourse, the woman like receives the man. And then the sun projects its energy onto the moon. So the sun is considered the masculine, the divine masculine, while the moon is the divine feminine. So the moon's the goddess. The moon is associated with like Artemis, the hunter, because people would hunt during the moonlight. Why would that be hilarious? I'm a feminist. Don't speak about things you have no knowledge of. What are you talking about, dude? What am I wrong about? What did I say that was wrong? I got Greg Botson doing his work on the YouTube. I subscribed to Joel Reads the Bible today on YouTube. So I posted out his latest video. I can easily prove God exists. A responds, "No, you can't. No, you can't." Even though I did, I called into his stupid show and did it. He probably doesn't know what my YouTube account is. He probably doesn't know it's me. So I responded to his comment. He says I can't prove God exists. So I said, if intelligibility exists, God exists. Intelligibility requires laws of logic, uniformity of nature, and moral absolutes, none of which can be made real by matter, chance, or human opinion. But intelligibility does exist. You're using it right now. Therefore, God exists. And not just any God, only the Christian God has the unique revealed attributes, eternal, rational, triune, sovereign, to make sense of these necessary preconditions. So Christianity isn't just the best explanation, it's the only one that makes knowledge possible? Baby! Why are you crying with it, babe? Are you sad? Are you mad? So he's probably going to not respond to that. I'm getting worse. By what standard? Like when you say I'm getting worse, that would assume like a normative framework. So you have some sort of standard where you can judge like better, worse. So how does value exist in your model of reality? What would make something have value? Because in my model of reality, Jesus decides what has value and what doesn't have value. So I have an objective standard for value, but like I don't understand how could you even talk about value if you don't believe in Jesus? Wouldn't everything just be meaningless? There'd be no purpose, right? Oh great, it's Addie. Oh great. Hi Addie.
Hi, you mock me again without giving me the course of rebuttal. I will microwave your fucking cat. Hehe.
Addie, this is the internet. I just make an argument. Relax. So, why do you irrationally deny the Bible? He just threatened me. I guess he just wanted to threaten me. Welcome.
Yeah, why do you? Why? Hold on. I was about to help you, Birdie. What the hell? Why do you
What?
leave?
I kicked him.
Oh, for real?
I only do one at a time.
Damn, you should have told me that. My
Well,
bad, bro. All right.
no worries.
I just help people though for you, cause I
Uh,
read the Bible a lot. I read it 2 times.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't like to gang up on people and dogpile. No, like I don't really need any help. But thanks.
All right, peace.
This guy is basically saying you objectively can't exist if you don't believe in Jesus. You objectively can't exist if you don't believe in Jesus. Well, what would be the source of existence, right? How could we, if we're going to talk about something exists, existence requires a source, right? Like, I couldn't talk about light and say, well, there's this light, but I deny the source of the light. Isn't that kooky to say that, right? So if we're going to talk about existence, you can't deny the source of existence and talk about existence. I'd be like, "Oh, I believe in sunlight, but I don't believe in the sun." Or I believe that there's light in the kitchen, but I don't believe in the source, the light at the ceiling. I don't believe in that source, but I believe in the light. Doesn't that seem like if this sounds like rage bait to you, then the truth must trigger you. Why what is wrong with you that like you can't even handle the truth? Oh yeah, that'd be a good clip. That'd be a good clip. You can't handle the truth, right? Oh man, I gotta be careful. I keep wanting to sing this new Kanye song, and if I sing the lyrics, I'll get banned. Is there like a short clip of that? Yeah.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Pretty much. That's it. That's it. That's what it is. What it is. If Jesus loved, then why let people starve? Um, because if there wasn't suffering in the world, we couldn't like it's suffering is what God uses to like build character so that we can. He's trying to make us ready for preparing. Heaven has been defiled and the earth has been defiled by Satan. And so God is in heaven. Jesus is in heaven preparing heaven for humans. And God uses suffering on earth to prepare humans for heaven. Suffering helps us build character. If you read the novel Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, he actually talks about this. I'll go into it a little bit. No, I totally forgot what I was doing. Oh yeah, now I remember. Seriously though, people hate the truth. Did you guys know that? Everyone says they want the truth or whatever, right? But that's not true, guys. George Orwell noticed this. Plato talks about this. Don't think those guys are Christians. And it's confirmed in the Bible. So this is what it is. That's all it is.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
That's what it is. You can't handle the truth. How about this one? Evolution mean? Why evolution make baby have cancer?
Yep.
Hello, welcome.
Hey, so I just wanted to make an objection to the first claim. You said it's objectively proven.
Yes.
Proof is like proof requires humans to prove something. Something is not proven if it's like let's say we were in the universe. Something cannot be proven unless there's someone to prove it. And you said objectively, right? Objective refers to outside of people. Something can't be proven objectively. It can only be proven. There's no subjective or objective when it comes to proof. So the claim objectively proven is not only redundant, but just untrue.
It's not untrue because in the Christian worldview...
No, but you understand how I define those words and what those words mean?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because in the Christian worldview...
I'm not arguing... I'm
not allowed to talk on my own live, or what? I just listened to your stupid garbage.
All right, fair enough.
In the Christian worldview, we have the mind of God, so we have an independent or objective like reference point to interpret and evaluate reality. So we don't have to rely on just subjective human minds. So that's kind of the argument I make. That's the proof. Without God's mind, there's no objective proof for anything. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to demonstrate God exists in the first place.
I just did. That you can't deny God without presupposing God. So God exists because of the impossibility of the contrary.
You're just doing Yeah, I get what you're doing. You're doing the presuppositional thing.
Yeah. So proof requires.
Okay. That's a really bad argument.
Oh,
so if I go ahead and presuppose a unicorn that rules over the universe, you can't deny that unicorn, because to deny the unicorn is to deny the existence of something. Like it only exists as a concept. Like, yes, God exists as a concept. Incorrect. But you haven't proved his physical existence.
That's not true. Like, the unicorn is a concept, but the Christian worldview has tangible things to support it. Like, the history of the church is tangible.
Okay.
The Bible is tangible. And we have metaphysical realities, like the fact that you're talking, that's tangible. So those things all indicate the Christian God, because he's got the revealed unique attribute set, and that attribute set is the necessary precondition for intelligibility, truth, science.
If community built upon a concept proves the concept, then I can just make a community based upon this unicorn of me and the people in chat.
But there's nothing tangible.
Yeah, well, that is tangible. I can write a book. No, I mean, the whole idea of what you're saying is that you're saying that because there's Because there's things supporting it. But there's things supporting many major religions. Why is your major religion?
Because it has a unique attribute set. Like no other God is triune. So
Okay.
God,
so many religions have unique attribute sets. Yours is
none of them have a triune
way.
God, and you need a triune God to make logic real, because logic requires universal principles that apply to different particular instantiations of the principles. So you need a God that's one in many, or triune, to explain the mechanism behind logic.
That logic. Okay, that doesn't make any sense.
I'm sorry you can't understand this.
No, I'm saying
do more research on it.
It's not that I don't understand. You're just not making sense. Why would you?
Well, that's because maybe you should just do more research on it.
Research on what? You're not making.
What
sense.
I'm telling you, I just gave you a proof that
you made a claim. That's not proof.
It's a proof. Only the Christian God's unique attribute set make logic real.
Your premise is flawed. It's not a proof.
If logic isn't real, you couldn't even prove anything, because we use logic to determine what's true or false.
I'm aware. I'm aware with presuppositional.
So you're using logic right now, correct? Or are you going to deny that?
Yeah.
So then I'm asking, think of logic as a sword. Who made your logic sword that you're swinging at?
No one. You're presupposing. Okay, logic is a human-made concept, right? But
if it's a human-made concept, then it's not universally binding. So I could just we wouldn't have to be logically consistent, and I could just say God exists because God exists, and then I'd win the debate. So that's a
no. No.
Okay, well, you're just being unreasonable
now.
I'm just gonna
logic has very distinct rules.
Omar, you're being unreasonable.
I'm just
gonna kick you, okay?
I don't know how I'm being unreasonable. How am I being unreasonable?
Because you're saying that logic is a human construct, but what follows from that is there'd be no reason that I would have to be logically consistent, because I could just make up my own logic if it's a human construct. But you treat logic as if it's universally binding, which means the same logic that applies to me is the same logic that applies to you. So that can't be the case if it's a human construct. So what you're doing is you're being unreasonable, and you're contradicting yourself. So it's I feel like I'm talking to a flat earther at this point, and I just don't. I can't reason with you if you're going to be like this.
Okay, so my response to that would just be, yes, it's a human-made construct, but it has distinct rules.
But you couldn't. What would enforce the rules? The human mind can't enforce. Look, Omar, if you write down some laws on a piece of paper, those aren't real unless police officers and judges enforce those laws.
Okay.
Your mind can't make rules real. Only the mind of God could do that. So these rules, if they just come from human minds, they wouldn't. There's nothing that enforces. There's no referee. We need a cosmic referee to enforce rules, or else they aren't rules.
So you don't have a reason. You don't have a reason to assume that because we can't ground logic, then.
But you're using logic. If logic isn't real, then I could just say God exists because God exists. Logic isn't real. It doesn't matter. But you don't use it like that. You're swinging the logic sword at me, and I'm just asking the question, who forged your sword? Who made your sword? And you're just being a little bitch. You won't tell me.
You calling me a bitch, I'm responding directly to what you're saying.
I'm just saying, man.
I've responded to
it's like you're scared of an argument. You're scared of an argument. Honestly, if you're afraid of an argument, I don't want you to be a Christian. Just stay atheist, because Christians have to have balls. You're afraid of an argument, you're not going to make it as a Christian, man.
Yeah, man. I'm sure
He's afraid of an argument.
The Kanye song you wanted to sing the lyrics about, I'm sure that makes you a great Christian, man. I'm sure Jesus really stands for that.
I'm just being real with you, dude.
Yeah, I'm sure Jesus stands for those ideals, bro. I'm sure Jesus messes
I'm
over
just
it.
saying what it is. I make an argument and you're running from the argument. And it's like if you're
I'm not
scared,
I'm not I'm not running.
you
You're
are.
saying that someone has to create logic. Like it's a
Logic has to be real. Something has to make logic real
why?
because
Real in what way? How would you? That's like a really
I
arbitrary like
told you
thing to
like
call it real.
that there's these rules and rules don't function unless something enforces the rules. Like if we're playing basketball in an NBA playoff game and there's no referee, the players will just do what they want. They don't have to follow the rules because there's no referee, and they'll just start elbowing each other. Pretty soon, there's no functional game. You can't have a game without referees enforcing the rules. It's the same thing with the rules of thinking, logic. They're rules. They need a cosmic referee like God to enforce the rules. So if you deny God exists, you're now making a counterclaim that something else is the cosmic referee. Well, what is it?
It's just the God of the gaps argument. You're saying that because I can't explain something, or because I'm not aware of how something works. Obviously, not aware of how this works.
It's
Then I
not
have
God.
to.
It's not though. The only gap is between your ears. So I'm saying,
Great one.
like the rules are enforced by a self-explaining, rational, necessary being, and you're just saying, oh, I don't know what enforces the rules. Well, then, if you don't have an explanation and I do, you have to. Your view is going to be parasitic on my view. You have to
Okay,
steal my
so
view.
for literally anything that humans don't know or something we cannot know, you're gonna say that, oh, I have an answer. It doesn't matter how stupid my answer is. It doesn't matter how many fallacies I use to say my answer. My answer is better because I have one, and that's your view.
You can't be neutral about logic. We're talking about the very
No,
thing.
I'm not neutral about it. But
You just said
okay, you're just putting words in my mouth. You said I'm not
when
calling
you
logic real. It's a really
yes, because
arbitrary way to define it. But
when
okay,
you talk about proving something, you have to use logic, and logic assumes there's this cosmic referee. So you already live your
logic does
life.
not assume that. Logic, where
There
does
can't
logic
be
assume
logic
that?
without a cosmic referee. It wouldn't
In the
function. Like the
how?
basketball game
Explain
does.
that.
I
No, explain that.
explained it. The basketball game doesn't function without the referees. Logic won't function without a cosmic referee enforcing the rules. So you come up here trying to debate, you're already assuming you believe
No.
there's some
Okay.
cosmic referee
We don't need
enforcing
a
the rules,
cosmic
but you're making the
referee.
claim it's not God.
We don't need a cosmic referee.
Well, then what's enforcing the rules?
There's games that you can sit down and play that aren't refed. Like
Sir,
if
rules
me and
don't
someone else
function
agree to
without
the
rule
rules of chess.
enforcement.
No, can I talk? If me and someone else agree to the rules of chess and we sit down and play chess, we're playing by the rules. There's no need for a referee. If you agree to the rules, like for example, if you're trying to prove something, if you agree to the valid premises, you agree to all this stuff to try to prove your argument, then you're agreeing to logic, right? If you agree to hold yourself to those rules, you don't need a ref. There's no ref necessary. I don't know why you keep bringing up this point. And I'm not assuming anything. Like I don't know what you're talking about.
You're assuming that something enforces the rules. Look, rules
I
don't
didn't assume that.
function.
I literally said the opposite of that just now.
Rules don't function without rule enforcement. So, like, if nothing enforces the rules of thinking, then they wouldn't apply to you and me equally. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, that's just not true. Okay, so
It is true.
no. The rules of chess, for example, apply to me and you equally, right? None of us can break those rules, right?
Let me think how
You can misunderstand the rules of chess and play incorrectly, and the game can be over. Like for example, if you have a struggle to understand logic, right? I can just concede the argument because there's no point in talking to you. But like that's your fault though. There's set rules to logic. Like you have to explain why all your premises are valid, and you have to explain why your conclusion is also valid based upon those premises, which you haven't done yet. But what I'm saying is you don't need a ref. There's no
But
like
there's
need
a
for a god here.
but you're kind of making a category here because the rules of chess are optional because we make those up. We can change the rules of chess if we want, but logic isn't like that. You can't just decide that contradictions are valid one day because
They're not. If you're okay,
look,
look,
hold
look.
on though,
You
but
can
we
use
can.
the rules
But
of logic, or you
you're making
cannot.
a mistake here because we can't just change the rules of logic. We can change the rules of chess. So this doesn't. It
That's
makes
not
the human
category.
mind.
It's not a one-to-one analogy.
It
No
is,
analogy
dude.
is one to one.
Because the rules of chess aren't unchanging like logic. Human minds can support those things because they're not unchanging. But the problem is when it comes to logic is like an unchanging rule. So a human mind can't make an unchanging rule. That's the
Because
problem.
it's a more fundamental, easy to understand
We need
rule.
an
It's like a
unchanging
set.
mind to talk about unchanging rules like scientific rules or
Okay.
scientific laws or logical laws. You need an unchanging mind as a foundation for unchanging rules.
Can you prove that?
I just told you.
No, you told me something, but there's no proof that you need
Human
something.
minds aren't unchanging, so a human mind can't make an unchanging rule real.
Okay,
The
maybe
rules
I
of
gotta maybe I
chess,
gotta ask the question
the
again.
rules of
Okay?
chess are optional. So, do you see the difference? Do you
You
see
want
the
me to ask?
mistake that
You want
you
me to
made?
ask the question again? You said only an unchanging mind can grasp an unchanging rule, or something around those lines. Can you prove that? Like, why
I
is that
just
necessary?
did because
You didn't. You just repeated it to me whenever I asked you.
if human minds aren't unchanging, so if logic is based on a human mind, you could change the law. You could change the law of non-contradiction, but you can't change the law of non-contradiction because it's an unchanging rule. So we need an unchanging mind, like the mind of God, to have an unchanging rule. You get it?
Just because something hasn't been changed doesn't mean anything. Like, yeah, you can't change the law of contradiction
You're just
because
ignoring what I'm saying.
it has a set rule set. You can choose to not believe it, but there are things that if you presuppose them, have to be a certain way. I don't understand. Like, like, what point are you trying to make here? Just because the law of contradiction is unchanging.
Because it has what you're saying is a contradiction. I don't know. Like you're just so like stubborn to contradict yourself.
What is the contradiction, and how does it contradict?
Necessary and contingent. Logic is a necessary truth. So necessary means it can't be otherwise. Contingent means it could be otherwise. So they're direct opposites. Logic is a necessary truth. Human minds are not necessary. Human minds are contingent. So a contingent mind can't produce a necessary truth. It's a contradiction. You need a necessary mind, like the mind of God, for a necessary truth to avoid contradiction. If you're willing to contradict yourself and you're cool with contradictions, then I can just say like, God exists because God exists, because there's no reason to be logically consistent at this point. So you understand or not? You don't get this? Maybe
I
it's just
understand what you're trying to say. It's just not true.
okay. Yeah. It's just not true, guys. Good counter argument.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, how are you, man?
Hi, I'm good.
Good. So it says Christian is objectively proven.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome, man. How is it objectively proven?
With a transcendental argument for God.
Oh, okay. And then can you make that argument?
Yes, the self-attesting Christ of Scripture is the foundational necessity for things like intelligibility, meaning, and rationality. And without the self-attesting Christ of Scripture, human reasoning collapses into futility.
Oh, and then how do you know that? How'd you hear about that?
How do I know? I just made it because because the preconditions for knowledge and intelligibility, the preconditions for intelligibility are either going to be revealed by God or they will be arbitrary.
Got you. And then did you read that somewhere, or did someone speak that to you? How did you gain that knowledge?
The argument comes from a guy named Cornelius Van Til.
And then Cornelius Mantle was a prophet of God, or how does that work out?
He was just a PhD philosopher who read the Bible, and then he took Romans 1, and he basically turned it into an argument, or like, yeah, basically.
Oh, got you. So everything you know to be true is spoken by word of mouth from people, and that's more valuable than anybody else's information, just because they got it in a book. Come on, man. Come on, man. It's not objectively proven. Just like
I mean,
everything, it's just a book, brother. Come on.
okay, well,
Okay,
I
now
guess,
no. That's done. That's done. Atheism is irrational. Number 2, man.
stop. Here's the thing, though. I just gave you a devastating and precise argument.
And I shut it down by saying it was spoken by word of
Well,
mouth from human beings.
You can think that, but what really happened is you are scared.
How are you saying I think that? Is that not true, what I'm
Nice,
saying? Is it not spoken or
You're
written
not
by a
letting me-
human being?
Not letting me talk.
Go ahead.
So you didn't address my argument. You ran like a coward from my argument. And the thing is, like, if you're afraid of an argument, I don't want you to be a Christian. So I'd like you to just stay the way you are. Okay?
Oh, so you're
It's
not
like-
going to say you're not going to revert
If you're-
anything that I just said. You're not going
If
to
you're-
discuss any of that?
Well, you didn't respond to my argument. So if you're afraid of arguments, you're not ready for Christ, because I think that's really pathetic to be afraid of an argument.
I don't think I ran.
Personally-
Okay, man. That's
Okay,
fine.
well,
Let's go
I
to
like
number
you the
2.
way you are. I just like you the way you are. Okay?
Let's go to number 2. Let's go to atheism
No,
is
let's not.
irrational.
Let's not.
You've made this day a special day by just your being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are.
Yep. Stay atheist, please. Please do not become a Christian, because you are an embarrassment. And I'd rather you embarrass whatever belief group you're associated with and not join. Please don't join the Christians. Welcome.
Welcome. Did you just call him an embarrassment?
I did.
You literally have brain worms and you're calling that person an embarrassment?
So if someone's afraid of an argument, do you think that's embarrassing?
This isn't even an argument. Tag is the worst and the least productive argument that has ever been, as far as I'm concerned. Like,
By
you
what
literally
standard?
could argue for a 3-legged dog and that would be better.
By what standard?
By what standard? Dude, really? Like, if you don't produce your God, you are insane. Just
By
a
what
little group
standard?
of people doesn't have the truth of what a God could be.
By
And
what
if you
standard?
can't produce your God, you are insane. If your God can't talk to all of us, you are insane.
By what standard?
By the world standard. Like, literally, like, you are in a cult, dude, and you can't think outside of your cult, and it needs to stop.
But like, you just appealed to like a fantasy or subjective.
Oh, so you're not appealing to a fantasy or having fallacies here, or every single possible fallacy you could possibly imagine just because your sky daddy is scaring you and doesn't scare us?
Well, I would have an objective standard.
You don't have any objective anything.
God.
You don't
No,
have
I'm
any
not.
objective standard on anything. Just because you say these magic words doesn't mean it's true. You are so... Dude, you need to wipe Darth Dawkins off of your face because it's getting a little bit sloppy and glazed, dude.
What makes it true is like when we compare.
Nothing makes it true. Nothing what you say makes it true. If you don't show your God, you are insane.
So we don't see electrons, right? But
Yes, we do. We can see them, but we don't know where they're going. We can see electrons. We can see oxygen. We can measure this stuff next.
Well, you're not really letting me talk. So again, this is a situation where like I think you're an embarrassing interlocutor, and I'd rather you just.
You're an embarrassing human being, dude. You have brain worms, and you're happy about it. That's just disgusting, dude. Your whole religion is disgusting. Religion in total is disgusting, and I can't believe people can't pull their heads out of their asses to think that religion is a con. Like, dude, you have been conned by Darth Dawkins so much, you might as well just remain on your knees, bro.
According to your fantasy standard.
According to
okay. So anyways, so what's going on here is that he's not reasoning, right? He's being emotional.
Our minds are...
Okay. He's being emotional, and he's just dug his heels in. This is called like intellectual heel dragging. And the thing is, you got to understand, here I'll play a clip to support what I'm saying, right? That people base their beliefs, people are not logical. Don't let them fool you. They are not logical. They base their beliefs on emotions. And they come to some conclusion based on emotion, and then after they emotionally think something's true, they then try to like rationalize why it's true and find reasons for it, and that's called motivated reasoning, and that's all that atheism is. And so that last guess is an example of this, and here's a clip to support what I'm saying about that.
Our minds are pattern matchers that make very quick judgments, within a second usually, and then we recruit our reasoning afterwards to justify what we've just done. So the metaphor I used in my previous book, The Happiness Hypothesis, was that the mind is divided into parts, like a rider on an elephant. The rider is our conscious reasoning. It's pretty small and impotent, but it acts like it's in charge. And the elephant is the other 99% of the mind, which really runs most of our behavior. Most of us spend a lot of our time trying to persuade other people's riders. We give them all these reasons. Here are the 7 reasons why you're wrong or why you should see it my way. When in fact, the way to persuade people is to speak to the elephant first. The elephant is a lot stronger than the rider. If you get somebody feeling the truth of what you're saying or feeling that they like you or like what you're saying, and the elephant kind of wants to go in your direction, then it's effortless to persuade the rider to go along. But if the elephant is digging in its heels, the elephant doesn't want to go, doesn't want to be dragged along by you to the... Our minds are pattern matchers.
That's what it is. It's just like the guy emotionally just doesn't want Christianity to be true. And so no amount of evidence, reason, logic, it doesn't matter. Irrelevant. Because my feels. Welcome, Tyson.
Mars, welcome back, Mars. I'm just gonna invite you because
What?
I'm just gonna invite you because it feels like you're getting controlled. Let's go to number 2. Let's skip number 1, okay?
Okay.
Let's skip number 1. I'm gonna explain to you my atheism heaven, right? Heaven. What you describe as heaven and what I describe as heaven is 2 different things. Because as an atheistic worldview, I don't think Christianity is a bad thing, and I think everybody should have some sort of heaven, right? This is my heaven, and you tell me how it's irrational. Think of George Washington, right? George Washington, instantly know he's the first president. That's heaven. How long you exist after you do not exist? Because when you die, it's just black, homie. You dead. It's like 1776, right? You didn't exist, and then you don't exist, right? So instead of being, oh, I'm not alive, you make connections with people while you're still alive. And how long your name is spoken is heaven, right? So just like George Washington and how we still speak his name today, right? That's his heaven. Tell me how that is irrational.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
That's pretty much how I feel about that. Where do they grow these people? Oh my goodness. So I got banned in an atheist philosopher Discord yesterday because they were posting pictures of Q-Top and his baby. And they're all like making fun of Q-Top and saying like his baby had no chance in life because Q-Top was the baby's father. And that was mean. And it hurt my feelings, although it may be true. And I said, well, at least if Q-Top doesn't, give his child the pokies, well, I don't know how to say this on TikTok. If Q-Top doesn't, poke his baby with a medicine poke thing, that's medicine, allegedly. If he doesn't do that, then the odds are the baby won't have the tisms, right? And so I got banned for saying that. which I think is just true, but I don't know why I'd get banned. Is that something that's like against TOS on Discord or something? It might be. I was saying that like they're making fun of Q-Top and his baby. Like the baby had no chance, and I said, well, if Q-Top doesn't give the baby the medicine that involves poking, then the baby had a good chance to not have like a be mentally underdeveloped, which is caused by allegedly some of those things. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm trying to say this in a way that's TikTok friendly. Is the Earth flat? No, the Earth is a oblate spheroid. Yeah, Rasul. It's early. It's early in the game. Let's wait. Let's wait at least. Let's the kid's like 14. Then, because he could always dip. If he dips when the kid's like 6 or something, I mean that's just as bad, right? You gotta be with the kid till it's like at least 18. At least. Bare minimum. I mean, I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying like you're counting your chickens before the eggs is hatched. Oh. Q-Top is what Darth has an issue with Q-Top because Q-Top trolls and says like the Earth is flat and that he pretends to be an atheist sometimes.
Hi, Davey.
Yeah, if you want to believe that, Tosh. I don't believe that though.
Hello.
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 Hello. How are you?
Good, thank you. Hey, but you feel all shy. Wow. Okay,
Are
wait.
you an adult?
Let me add someone. Yeah. I do. I would like to say I do have something wrong with my voice. So I
I can
have
hear
a.
people talking in the background.
Oh, sorry. Those are my friends. I'm really sorry.
You're not an adult.
Fuck you, bitch.
Adults
Fuck
don't
you.
have friends.
Fuck you.
Adults don't have friends. Nice try.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
Welcome, Taj.
What's up? So tell me more about the link between vaccine, or excuse me, the
We
pokey
can't talk.
things.
We can't talk
Pokey
about it.
things.
I don't want. We can't talk about it. I would love to, but we can't. Maybe I could read a quote from Bertrand Russell. Yeah, I could read a. Here, I'll read a quote from Bertrand Russell. Do you know who Bertrand Russell is? So Bertrand Russell was like a super genius mathematician, philosopher, and he wrote some books. This is from the book The Impact of Science on Society in 1953. It's on page 49. Or it might be on 50. It's either 49 or 50. The Impact of Science on Society by Bertrand Russell. He worked with the what was it called? The Congress for Cultural Freedom. Was that what it was called? Yeah, Congress for Cultural Freedom was an anti-communist cultural organization and founded in the 50s, active in 35 countries. And in 1966, it was revealed that the Central Intelligence Agency was instrumental in the establishment and funding of the group. Congress aimed to enlist intellectuals and opinion makers in the war of ideas against communism. And so Bertrand Russell was a part of this group. This, like, is it like kind of a think tank or something? So these people were instrumental in sort of the culture war against Russia after World War II. And so they made this, he would have been like making decisions on how our culture operates. Or he would be used, he would be one of the voices. And in his book, The Impact of Science on Society, 1953, and page 49 through 50, I think they used his ideas. And he says here, diet, well, think of all the crap in our food, right? So he says diet, and then he says the pokey medicine and injunctions, which are like laws. He says these will combine from an early age to produce the sort of character and the sort of beliefs that the authorities consider desirable, and any serious criticism of the powers that be will become psychologically impossible. And so because of like propaganda, science, technology, like physiology and psychology, so psychology, they attack us, right, through like mass psychology, through like, TV, social media stuff, mass psychology. And then there's also a war on the physiology where they study the physics of the body and all that, the chemistry, and they learn things about like, how to probably put things into our diet, right, that would aid whatever, the system. The system wants to create, mold people into, workers for the system, basically, right? And so they're going to use all these things, and psychology and physiology, and medicine is going to be probably one of those things, right? Like the pharmaceutical companies make lots of money, and wouldn't they be connected with, powerful people? I mean, it's kind of like a duh. Oh, Darth showed up. So you missed me talking about the conspiracies, Darth. Hey, Darth, this popular YouTuber came to the college campus near me where, oh, really? Oh, I want to tell you one thing, Darth. Remember that AI podcast and how you said that they keep interrupting each other and going, yeah, okay, uh-huh, yeah, okay, uh-huh. You know how they kept doing that way too much? They've already changed that. They dialed that way, way, way back. It flows way more now. It's way more harder to detect now because of that, I think. So they've already improved that. They've already... I think that was kind of an obvious flaw, but it's pretty cool how they already fixed that. Sounds a lot better. So it sounds so realistic, really. And it's really good because it kind of gives you like a basic overview. You can like upload a novel and that gives you a basic overview of the novel. Oh, but also this guy on YouTube, he's pretty big, called Alex Stein. He's like right wing. He's kind of like what Charlie Kirk does on college campuses. He came to my city the other day, I guess. And I was thinking about doing the same thing, about getting this poster. There's a sign place. I was going to go get this sign that says like, I can prove the Bible's 100% true. And then go to like the college campus and just like record interactions. I bet like people in person will be a lot different. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. How is Christianity objectively proven?
Christianity is objectively proven, like, so by asking that question, there's baked in assumptions that like there's these rules of thought that if we follow these rules of thought, we can prove things. And so the rules of thought themselves are going to require rule enforcement, because rules don't function unless something enforces the rules. So we're going to need sort of like a cosmic referee to enforce the rules of thought, and that's going to be God. And if you deny that, you'd be making like a counterclaim that like something else is enforcing the rules of thought, but there's nothing else. So
Can you define rules of thought for us?
like the laws of logic, like law of identity, law of non-contradiction.
So how does that objectively prove a creator?
As I told you, the rules require rule enforcement. Like if you just write down some laws on a piece of paper, no one's going to follow them without police and judges enforcing the law.
That doesn't sound very objective, though. It sounds like we're like subjectively believing.
What are you talking about, dude? When you to have any objective proof, we would need something like God's mind as an objective reference point too.
So are you saying that there is no objective proof?
If you deny God, yeah. You couldn't talk about objective proof without God's a foundation.
So wait, really quickly, how can you objectively prove something without any objective proof?
Because it's the revealed necessary foundation to objectively prove anything.
Oh, so you're trolling.
No, I gave you a devastating and precise argument.
A devastating, like you said that we couldn't objectively prove anything unless you believe in God.
Right. So like, there's going to be a basketball playoff game tonight, and if the game doesn't have referees, the players will just do whatever the hell they want. They'll start elbowing each other. It'll be chaos. You couldn't have a game without referees. It wouldn't function. So rules require rule enforcement to function.
But rules are a social construct.
Some
You're assuming that there's rules of logic.
Contingent rules would be a social construct, or rules that could be otherwise. But the rules behind thinking and logic, those rules, they can't be otherwise.
There's different schools of logic. There's different schools of thinking.
Stop. It doesn't matter. There's still these unchanging principles or rules. And a human mind, because the human mind isn't unchanging, you can't get an unchanging rule from a human mind. So we need like the mind of God, which is unchanging, to be a source for unchanging rules.
When's the last time the human mind has evolved and developed?
This is irrelevant. So are you going to just ignore my argument because you're a coward?
Dude, your argument's bullshit. Your argument was we couldn't like objectively prove something without proof. Like, well, you're subverting your own argument.
I feel like you're afraid of arguments, and if you're afraid of an argument, then you're not worthy of being a Christian.
You know what pseudo-intellectual means?
You can say whatever the insults you want, but
I'm not insulting you. I just think you're a funny guy.
All right. Well, the point of you're afraid of my argument, and I would rather you're like an embarrassment to humanity, and I'd rather you stay like a non-Christian.
Does God think I'm an embarrassment to humanity?
I would imagine so. You're quite pathetic to be afraid of an argument. So I would say, like, I'm happy you stay the way you are. You're special. I love you just the way you are. We have enough embarrassing Christians as it is. So, yeah.
Wait, so really quickly, your argument is we cannot objectively prove.
Yeah, like you don't care about arguments. You're scared of arguments. Oh my God, the argument. Oh, it's gonna hurt me. Better run from it. Oh, an argument, guys. It hurt my feelings. The argument. Oh.
But that guy was like definitely on the right track.
No, he wasn't.
He
was running from my argument.
Wait, no, I don't think he was. I don't think he had the exact words that he needed.
He didn't. He just ignored what I said.
No, okay, so like I'm gonna piggyback off of the last conversation.
Oh my Lord!
But like
taking advantage of that.
The laws of sorry, hold on, I did something to my phone. Okay, I almost exited out. The laws of like sports or the laws of like society are not analogous to the laws of logic, because it's not like we came up with those laws and then the earth started following the laws that we came up with. That's not how that worked.
Well, but I wasn't. I agree with you, but I was just trying to point out that they require rule enforcement. Any rule requires rule enforcement to function.
I definitely agree that like the rules inside of sports require enforcement, and I definitely agree the rules like for society require enforcement, but those are so different from the laws of logic. Like we didn't make those up.
Yeah, but they all. It doesn't matter though. But any rule, no matter what the rule, I understand there are different types of rules because they can change, but the laws of logic don't change, so they're different. But the rules, no matter what, require enforcement. There's no such thing as a rule that's not enforced. That doesn't make sense. It's like a contradiction.
Well, I would say like with the laws of logic, if you really want to go with like the whole enforcement thing, I would say they are like enforced by just reality. They don't need a mind to enforce them because, like I said, we didn't come up with these laws. We just observed them and know that they are true because we have always seen them to be true.
But
reality itself is enforcing the laws of logic.
But the problem is the rules don't change and reality does change.
No, reality, like the reality of the laws of logic has never changed. Never.
I understand that, but reality, like when you're saying reality, are you talking about like matter and energy?
Just like the world around us. Like
yeah, that changes. Matter changes.
The world around us changes, but the laws of logic never do. Never.
Right. So they can't be based on the physical world.
Yeah, they can be because that's how we see them. So are you
physical? You don't.
I don't understand. Are you saying that we came up with these laws, like we invented?
No, I'm saying it's because the physical world changes. It could be otherwise. It's contingent. It can't produce like a necessary, unchanging truth.
So you're saying that in reality there is a like somewhere out there in space and time, it's possible like P equals not P. Because that's not the case.
I'm saying the fact that in reality that this is true, that the contradictions don't exist in reality. We need something to enforce that rule. We need the cosmic referee, and that's God.
Yeah, I would say like the world around us is what enforces that rule. The reality.
I just explained it's a contradiction.
Yeah, I don't agree that that's a contradiction.
But it doesn't matter what you agree. It is.
Well, I mean, it doesn't make sense that you're saying it's a contradiction. It's just that's just not the case.
I explained it. The world changes.
Yeah, and like what you're saying isn't correct. I'm sorry.
But if logic was a product of like the physical world is subject to change. So then logic would be subject to change.
Okay, to me, what you're saying is somewhere out there is there is a place where P doesn't equal P, and like that's not the case.
I'm not saying that.
That sounds like what you're saying. You're like it's subject to change, but unfortunately,
I'm saying I'm doing a thought experiment. If what you're saying is true, if the laws of logic are based off physical material is subject to change, so then
it's not physical material. It's literally like the universe, the whole world around us. That's how we know the laws of.
I thought you were talking about. I thought you were. Well,
I mean, like, yeah, the matter is a part of the world around us, but we didn't come up with the laws of logic. We have observed them, and then we wrote down the laws of logic.
So you're saying
to coincide with what we've already observed.
Do you think they're immaterial?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that they're like, I don't know if I would say that they're material or immaterial. Like, I definitely would say that they're a construct, but at the same time, I think you could see the laws of logic with your own two eyes.
You're contradicting yourself.
The bed that I'm laying in could never not be my bed.
If they're a construct, they're not real. That's what it means to be a construct. That's not real.
I know, but I'm also saying I don't know if I have a stance on whether or not they're physical or not, because the laws themselves, like P equals P, though, that is a construct because we made that up.
They govern the physical though.
But it also works in reality. It's more than just a construct, because like I said, the bed that I'm laying in right now will never not be my bed. P will always equal P. Bed will always equal bed. So like I don't know, and like in that term, I would say it's a bit different than a construct because like you can literally see these things, like you can see the laws of logic with your own two eyes. So yeah, I don't know if I would. I don't know.
We see the effects of reality. I think of it like electrons. Like we could never see electrons, but we see the effects of electrons on reality. And it's the same thing with God. We don't see God, but we see his effects on reality. It's like obvious, and that's the effects are like these rules of thinking, the rules of nature, or that like the moral absolute rules. Like these things are real, and that's God. That's where God's like obvious. He's like, hey, I'm here, and it's like you already live like it, so it's just you're subconsciously denying it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like this just seems like some pretty like presuppositional BS that's like already been disproven.
It's not. No one has debunked presup in academia.
Yes,
Presup
has 100% been debunked.
They just ignore it. They stop doing metaphysics because of people like David Hume, and like Kant.
No, I fully disagree. Like all these presuppositional claims have been debunked, like way before I started talking about them, and way before you started talking about them.
I've studied this. I've looked into academia.
Sure, I mean, so have I.
Who debunked tag? What's the counter? There's no counter argument.
Yeah, the first premise is BS. It's not true.
But if you reject the first premise, then you're making a counterclaim that something else is the precondition for intelligibility.
You don't need, like, I would say that, like, why is there a requirement for a precondition at all? Like,
because like it's like cake. Like you can't believe in cake and then deny like the preconditions of cake, like milk, flour, egg, sugar. So like, or like a light source.
Then I would just say like prove that God is the precondition. Like you're just claiming that. Prove that to be true.
Because
like for tag, not that you're saying it right now, but like in tag, like that's the claim, and it's never been proven to be true.
I was giving you the proof about like how there's these necessary or absolute truths. These exist, like mathematical truths or logic truths. And necessary and absolute truths require a foundation, like meaning like something to make them real.
And prove that foundation is God, because I would say that the foundation of like math or logic or anything like that is just the universe around us. It is like self-actualizing.
But the universe doesn't have the necessary properties to make math real, because math is like immaterial, unchanging, universal, eternal. And like what in the universe
I believe the universe to be that as well. I believe the universe.
You believe it, but how that you would have no way to know that? Like, did it?
That's exactly what you're doing with God.
No, it's not.
You believe that God is these things, but you have no way to know that.
I do, because
that's the whole point of this presuppositional BS. Like you're just claiming things that you cannot prove.
That's not true, because as from a Christian, if you step onto my model of reality and you like think of like the world like a Christian thinks of the world, we have a reason to believe in that God is these properties, because God takes the initiative and speaks to us and says, I have these properties. But there's nothing like that in your model.
God doesn't do that though, because God isn't real. So there's no way that your fictional friend could say these things, because God doesn't exist. So prove that God did that.
But that's your model of reality, and then the proof...
it's just the truth. I mean, there is no your model and my model. There is just reality.
There is only one reality, but
there's no reality for you. There's no reality for me. There's no.
We have competing models. We're proposing competing models. That's the clash.
Yeah, you're presupposing God, and now I'm asking you to like prove that, and
I'm saying. The proof is that you can't rationally deny the claims of the Bible without presupposing the claims of the Bible. That's the proof, because the God of the Bible...
What does that even mean? Like you can't deny... Like what?
Like you're using... You have a logic sword, and you're swinging your logic sword at me, and then I ask, who made your sword? And the answer is going to be, my God made the logic you're using against me.
No, like
Well, then what made it? Because you say the universe,
prove
but
that. You said God made the logic and the universe and all that stuff. Prove that. You're just
because
saying.
logic can't come from human minds, and logic can't.
I
come
never
from
said that it did. I think logic comes from the world around us. It's literally just things that we have seen and we have given rules to that.
But it can't.
No, it 100% can, and it has.
But you're just kind of ignoring what I said.
And you're ignoring what I'm saying. Like
because
you
what you're,
I
I explained. I gave you a counter argument that the
well,
world
your
around us.
argument is baseless and full of shit. Like I don't know what to tell you.
It's a contradiction.
It's not a good.
I pointed
argument.
out the P and not P in what you said because the
Where did I ever say like P equals not P? Like when did I say that?
I said that the P and not P in your position, the contradiction.
Where is my P and not P?
It's
where like
the
can you point it out to me again?
The contingent world gives us non-contingent truth.
Okay, prove that the universe is contingent.
Oh my
like,
God!
That's
you're
just
dickering.
another claim.
That's
like,
not controversial. That's not controversial. Everyone would agree with that. That's not controversial.
No, I don't think that that's true.
Well, now you're just arguing that
lots of people. Wet. There's lots of people who would agree that the universe is eternal.
Okay, if you could think that, but how would you know?
And even
that?
if like
did the universe tell you it's eternal?
Even if. Like that's just like some kind of fallacy. Even if I'm the only person on earth that thinks that the universe is eternal and everybody else thinks that it's a god, just because everybody believes it doesn't make it true.
But
you realize that, right?
You can't just say, I think the universe is eternal. You'd have to demonstrate. Like, how would you know that? Did it tell you that it's eternal?
Yeah, I would say it's like it just logically follows. If energy can't be created or destroyed, then that logically entails that it had to have always existed.
Okay, and now you're going beyond the bounds of logic. Logic can't make a claim like that. You're just BSing now. See, this is the proof of God that you have to BS.
No, I don't understand. Okay,
you're just lying to me.
Debunk it then. If energy cannot be created or destroyed, it stands to reason that it has always existed. Tell me where that idea is wrong.
Okay,
what
so
did I say?
Appealing to because you're appealing to the first law of thermodynamics, which only applies to a closed system. So this isn't making any like metaphysical claim about reality. It's just a claim about phenomena. So you're going beyond the bounds of logic.
What are you talking about? Like
you're making claims about
it. Like
you're making claims that you can't back up because science and logic.
I literally just justified it right now.
No, you just if I go and look up the law.
I literally just justified it, dude.
Oh my God, you're just ignoring what I'm saying. You went beyond
what you're
the
saying
bounds.
Makes absolutely zero sense.
You appeal to a scientific law of thermodynamics, but you made a claim that law doesn't claim. Because that law has to do with closed systems.
Wait, what? Wait. I'm lost. I made a claim that the law doesn't what?
You made a claim about reality that the law itself would not support. You're taking the law and misapplying it to support your position.
Okay, so like debunk it then.
I did. I told you it only applies.
You're telling me I'm wrong, but like tell me exactly, very, very clearly.
You are
how
wrong.
Am I wrong?
You are wrong because the law of thermodynamics applies to closed systems. It's not making a claim about the universe being eternal. That would be a metaphysical claim.
I never said it was making a claim. I'm just saying that
what the hell?
Given that law is true, right? We both believe that like energy cannot be created or destroyed.
It doesn't follow from that law.
It follows that it always existed.
Follow.
Okay, then if it can't be created, then how was it created?
Bro,
by your big magical sky daddy wizard?
That applies to a closed system.
Not buying it.
That applies to closed systems.
I don't even know what you mean by that exactly, and how are you going to say that the universe isn't a closed system? How are you going to say that the universe isn't? I'm not even sure what you mean by a closed system. But like, how can you say that the universe
doesn't make these claims? Science doesn't make these claims. Science doesn't know these things. You're making science. You're just saying shit like, oh, it
Oh my
just
God,
is
you're
this
getting
way.
like
There's no
you're getting like really upset, dude.
because you're just completely bullshitting me. Everything you're
No,
saying, there's
you
no
that's like
evidence for any of
literally why are
this.
you
You're just
projecting?
making things
Why
up,
are you projecting? You come on live and bullshit
bro.
people all the time.
I
And
don't bullshit
I'm giving you
people.
a very good reason to see
You're
that like your
not.
whole worldview is
Not.
garbage and you're like getting super emotional about it.
This is a textbook example of like trying to sound sophisticated while glossing over
Yeah,
the actual
yes, I
issue at
know.
hand.
You are projecting so heavily right now, dude. And it's embarrassing for you.
Okay, well, I don't know. We're just going in circles at this point, kind of.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I wish that you would stop being so dense and like see the reality of, you know, the world around you for what it is and not believe in like an imaginary wizard.
Well, I think I have a good argument for my position.
I think I have a great one for mine that you still haven't debunked. So
Okay, well, because you're just ignoring what I'm saying.
and you ignore what everybody else says. And
I
you
don't.
have all
I
your
listen to
presuppositional nonsense that you can't prove. All of your arguments, whittle them all down to the basis, and they're all things that you cannot prove. So why the fuck should I care?
Because you can't prove anything without God's revelation.
Yeah, prove that. Prove that to be the case.
Yeah, all facts would require like uniformity of nature, cause and effect, identity over time, and those things are only explained by the Christian worldview. There's no
Yeah,
other explanation.
prove that to be the case. Like you're just saying what you're just claiming the claim over again. Prove that to be the case.
Yeah, so there's no empirical evidence for the uniformity of nature because any attempt to just empirical evidence has to assume the uniformity of nature to do empirical evidence, an empirical proof. So
Dude, am I supposed to understand what you're saying right now? You're just like,
yeah. So there's no here, let me simplify it. There's no empirical evidence for the uniformity of nature. There's no rational evidence for the uniformity of nature. Therefore, the only way we could prove the uniformity of nature is through God's revelation. And the uniformity of nature is required for any fact. So
yeah, you think that's like a good argument you just gave?
Yeah, that it's impossible to
you think
prove.
That's watertight?
Yeah, it's impossible to prove the uniformity of nature with human standards. So we need God to justify the uniformity of nature. There's no other way. It's
like,
literally impossible.
what do you mean by uniformity of nature? Like, are you talking about like the laws of logic?
That the future resembles the past. That like when you touch a hot stove and you burn your hand, you reason that, well, in the future, if I touch a hot stove, it'll burn my hand. Because you reason that the future resembles the past. That's inductive reasoning. And so this is what I'm just talking about.
I'm just like failing to see how any of that points to God. Like the fact that people can use their minds and like think things. Is that what you're saying? Like, I don't know. I'm getting a little lost. I feel like you've gotten kind of like flustered and now you're just throwing big words at me.
Well, I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to like make it simple. Because
well, it's definitely not simple. Like honestly, at this point, I don't even know how to disagree because I don't even really know what you're trying to communicate.
I'm just saying that there's like patterns in the world. If everything was random, you couldn't even talk. Your words would be random. So the fact that like we can talk means that there's patterns in the natural world. Patterns meaning that the future resembles the past. When you drop a pencil, it falls to the ground.
Wait. You're saying that language is a pattern?
No, I'm saying there's patterns in nature.
Sounds like exactly what you're saying. You said that you can't talk without patterns.
Right, because
language is a pattern. For which scholar could I look at that would claim that language is a pattern?
Well, a word would be a certain pattern of sound, right? That you repeat over and over. It's like.
Do you know what a pattern is? Because like I don't think you understand what a pattern is.
Like something that repeats.
Like, yeah. So a word is not a pattern. It's literally just sounds coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, but they sound the same. So it's a pattern of they sound. How could it, if words don't? You don't think words sound? About? How could I understand the word if it doesn't sound similar to other words?
Holy cow! because we know definitions to words. What do you mean words sound like other words, therefore
If
you know
every
what
time
they
you said a
mean?
word,
What are you talking about?
if every time you said, like every time I said the word cat, it sounded different. Like sometimes it sounded like bat, sometimes it sounded like hat, sometimes it sounds like mat. If every time you say it, it sounds different, you can communicate. So communication relies on these patterns that words sound
So
the same.
sorry. So sorry. Saved by the bell. My child just woke up. I gotta go.
Okay. How the hell does she have a child? Hey, Fred, would you like to tell us about your poop?
Wow, that's pretty wild. She kicked your ass.
Yeah,
You're
she
so
did.
delusional. Why don't you understand that God is a grift? You know, it's all about money. And if you don't get that,
It's all about money. Yeah, it's all
yes,
about
money.
it.
How much dough can they get out of your pocket?
These hosers want our dough. Hey?
How much?
They'll
Send money.
They'll never get my
God
maple
needs your
syrup.
money.
Yeah, God wants my maple syrup, but he won't get it, eh? What's this all about?
I'll give him the maple syrup.
For real. Do you want to tell us about your poop?
Yeah, how does that, it just seems so far-fetched that anyone could believe in a God. It just seems so whack. You have to really be stretching, the limits of credulity. Not one shred of evidence. It's like, wow, why did you stop believing in the tooth fairy and Santa Claus, but you still believe in a God?
Because there's an obvious proof that those things are false. Because people say they're false when people teach their kids that these things are false.
Well, I'm teaching you that God is false. You should listen.
No one teaches their kids that God is false. So
Sure, my parents did.
There's no such similar evidence.
People teach their kids, they teach their kids that these things are real, and then at some point the kid starts questioning things. Why didn't you start questioning God? And when no one could provide any evidence for you, just like they can't for Santa Claus or the tooth fairy, you continued to believe. That's what I don't understand. Critical thinking, you should just go, this is all nonsense.
Well, so critical thinking is when you examine the evidence for both sides and then you come to a conclusion.
But there's zero evidence for a God.
Well, there's the transcendental argument for God. That would be evidence. So what's the evidence for atheism?
You don't need evidence to not believe in something. You need evidence to believe in something.
Okay, well, you're being inconsistent.
I have no belief in any God. And until one proves that they're there,
but I can't.
Why would I believe in it? I've been saying fuck God since I was 4 years old. And I'm now 64, and I'm saying the same thing, and I'm having a successful life, having a great time, living the dream. And what difference would it make if I believed in God or I were praying? Zero, obviously.
Well, you're reasoning like a flat earther, so I don't think I'm gonna be able to make much progress with you because you don't care about evidence or logic. Or
what evidence? Give me one shred of evidence for a God. One shred.
Any fact could only be a fact if God makes it a fact, because God's necessary for facts.
That's a stretch.
Well, facts require uniformity of nature. So how do you have uniformity of nature without God's revelation? There's no way to explain it. So there you go. That's a proof.
This is such a delusional concept.
Okay.
It's whacked. There's not a shred of evidence.
Well,
there's not one shred of proof that there's a God. It seems so far-fetched that there's any belief in God's period. It just seems like archaic, or when we couldn't explain anything.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Not sure who was. Not sure who was first. I wish it would say. Welcome, Koopa.
Hello.
Hello.
I wanted to talk about your point that you just said. You need God for facts, because in order for something to be a fact, you need God to make it a fact.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't see how that could work, because if we take like a world that God does not exist, it is a fact that God does not exist. Therefore, you won't need God to make facts.
So, but the problem is we're gonna need God as an ultimate foundation for facts, or we have what are called brute facts. But brute facts would entail like there would be no facts. We wouldn't be able to know anything. And so we need God as like an ultimate foundation for facts. There's like no other way.
Yeah, but then again, if there's a world where God does not exist, it's still a fact that God does not exist. But
that would be a contradiction.
How? What?
Because you couldn't have a fact without God.
So in a world where God does not exist, is it true or false that in that world God does not exist?
It's a contradiction, though.
Is it true or false?
If it's true that God does not exist, then God exists. So that's a contradiction, right? You're not getting this. Josh Rasmussen wrote a paper on this.
Okay.
But it's kind of difficult to understand because he's like a PhD philosopher. He's like a really smart philosopher.
Wait, even if it's a contradiction, wouldn't that be a contradiction in your worldview then? It wouldn't be a contradiction in my point. It would just be a contradiction in your worldview. Because wait, hold on. Your worldview is that you need the God for the fact, and I'm bringing up a point, saying, if there's no God in this world, it's a fact that there is no God, and then you're saying that's a contradiction. So that would be a contradiction on your part.
No, it's a contradiction on your worldview.
No, you're the one. Because I'm doing an internal critique. I'm critiquing your point of view by putting.
You don't know what you're. Okay, I'm just gonna move on. You just don't know what the hell you're talking about.
You're gonna run.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that are asking to come up, and you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Hey, what's up, man? Can you hear me?
Yes.
What's up, bro? Yeah. So I had a question on like the first one. That's the most provoking one.
Sure.
Why do you think that religion, or any religion, or God, or Christianity is objectively proven?
I think it's obvious because, like, to even ask about objective proof, you're assuming that there's these like rules of thought that we use to prove things. And so that assumption betrays that you actually believe in God too, because for rules to function, rules require a rule enforcer, and God would be like the cosmic referee enforcing the rules of thought. And if you're gonna like deny that, then what cosmic referee is enforcing the rules of thought that's not God?
That's actually interesting. I haven't heard someone say the rules have to be enforced. So what rules do you think are enforced?
Like the law of identity, the law of non-contradiction, law of excluded middle.
Oh, you mean like, God is, okay, I've heard that debate then. Like, God is necessary for logic?
Yeah, I'm saying God's necessary for logic. You're using logic, so like you're wielding a logic sword at me. Who forged your sword? Because I'm on the Christian worldview, God can make logic real. He has the necessary attributes set to make God real. And as far as I'm concerned, like you're standing on God's ground, denying that the ground exists. Unless you can tell me like where are you getting logic from that's not the Christian God, which of course you won't be able to provide an answer for that.
Right. So you like basically attributing logic to God, but I don't see the reason why you're attributing it to him. Like if I say, hey, I made a car, right? And there's no evidence that someone else built this car, so I can just claim authority for this car. Does that mean that I made the car?
Made the car?
Yeah, so logic would be the car in this example. So let's say
a car is contingent. Logic is like an unchanging rule. So like
Analogies aren't like one-to-one. It's about it. What
I
you're saying.
understand. Yeah, but the point is, logic is unchanging. So you need something that's unchanging as a foundation. But human minds are not unchanging. The material world is not unchanging. So what is it that's unchanging? That's not God, the Christian God, that would like make logic real. And there's nothing.
So logic isn't contingent.
It's necessary, right? So we need a necessary foundation for a necessary truth. Human minds are
Wait,
contingent.
so if it's not contingent, it's not dependent upon anything. That's what contingent means.
No, contingent means could be otherwise. Or I mean,
there's
a different sense. There's different senses of the word. So I don't know why we're getting hung up on definitions, but
right. But you didn't go to the. You're not debating the definition that it could be otherwise because you said that it's necessary, which means that
God is in the Christian worldview. God is logic, and then human logic would be like a reflection of the mind of God.
God is logic. Yeah, again, that just goes back to the attributing problem. Like, it's a problem of attribution, right?
Yeah, okay, but you're ignoring my argument. So what you're
No, I'm
using
not
logic.
ignoring the argument.
Oh, you're not. So
I
what
accept your
absolute?
argument.
Oh, you're not ignoring my argument. So what absolute are you reasoning from? That's not the absolute of the Christian God.
That's not what I'm debating. I'm debating logic. So
Okay, well that's what I'm debating.
Right. So
here's
that's
my
what I'm saying.
argument. You needed a reason from an absolute. I'm reasoning from the absolute of the Christian God. I'm being open and upfront. This is my bias. I take the Bible as the word of God. You're not reasoning from the God of the Bible. So what absolute are you reasoning from that you can even do an internal critique on my position?
Well, I agree that logic is. I'm not doing an internal critique. We're debating the existence, right? Okay.
Well, whatever,
so
dude.
clarify,
You're reasoning. You're using logic. What absolute are you reasoning?
Yes, we're using logic. So we both agree that logic is necessary. Meaning, it's not.
Doesn't matter what we agree. You're not answering my question. What absolute are you reasoning from? That's not the absolute foundation.
Logic is the absolute. I hope that's obvious.
Why is logic necessary? Did logic tell you that it's necessary?
You agree that it's necessary.
It doesn't matter what I agree.
So you disagree.
What can we prove? I can prove that my God is necessary because God revealed himself to be necessary. Did logic tell you that logic is eternal?
It didn't have to.
Thanks for coming. You're a coward.
Okay, just run, bro.
Listen, dude. You're afraid of an argument.
The argument is horrible, dude. That's the problem.
That's by what standard?
Do
you have a standard? What standard?
Yes. The standard.
What's your normative framework?
Again, the normative framework and the standard is that you agreed on something and then you ran away.
That's not an objective standard. That's
what you agreed on. Dug you into a hole and now you're running away. Like, it's ridiculous.
Okay, if you think so.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever makes you stay. But look, man.
Okay, whatever makes
I'd rather you
feel
not
bad
be.
about
But
yourself.
honestly, at this point, you're an embarrassment to humanity.
You're an embarrassment to your God.
You
like,
can say that, but you have no objective
religion.
standards
It's
to
better
say
Christians to debate.
okay.
Like, this is horrible.
Well, all right, it is horrible. Then go. Then you can leave.
Yes,
leave.
you're a horrible debater, bro.
I don't even want you to be a Christian.
Defeated yourself, my guy.
You'd be an embarrassment.
The
I'd rather
same
you be a non-Christian because you're an
The
embarrassment.
same thing you agreed on.
This day a special day by just your being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are.
That's right. I like you just the way you are. Stay a non-Christian. What an embarrassment. We got enough Christians who are totally embarrassing to Christianity. Okay? Stay a non-Christian, please. Please.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
So, like, when you said that the laws of thermodynamics only apply to closed systems, that was just, like, not true. And, like, it sounded like bullshit. Like,
yeah. Wait, actually added the other person was waiting longer. Let me go to Grace first, and then you can go next. If she's still there. Oh, welcome, Grace. Are you there, Grace? Oh, she probably dipped. I was making her wait too long. So, Jose, what would you like to say?
Yes, sir. What was the claim from the last couple guys? I know the last guy said something about thermodynamics, and that was like his route.
That it doesn't apply to closed systems. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Okay. So instead of taking a more secular approach, I would like to take the avenue of you defending your objective faith.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing this whole time.
Okay. All right. You lied about the third one. Yeah. So you lied about the third one. Yeah. So with that, how do you prove that your God is objectively the God you believe he is?
We prove God with a transcendental argument for God.
Okay. And what is the transcendental argument for the Christian God?
It can be done in a number of different ways, but the idea is that we take some fact, usually like a mental fact, that you can't be skeptical of. Like, you can't be skeptical about logic or knowledge or something like that.
What are the laws of logic?
Like law of identity, the law of non-contradiction, and the law of the excluded middle.
Okay. So of non-contradiction, I would like to kind of hone in on that with the law of non-contradiction. So what evidence do we have of the God of the Christian faith?
That he would be like necessary for logic, right? So
No. So I'm talking about within, like, how do we consciously know about Yahweh, which is the God of the Judeo-Christian faith? How do we consciously know about him?
He'd be revealed in creation. So
Right.
everything that exists would exemplify ultimate intention, ultimate
What
design.
physical...
It could only do so if it's revealed by the God of the Christian Bible.
And that's what I was looking for. The Bible. The Bible, he revealed himself through the Bible, right?
And he reveals himself through, like, anytime you think is a revelation of God, or anytime you, like, observe anything, look at the world.
Even if it's a Buddhist that's thinking, or even if it's a Muslim that's thinking?
Even if it's a, yeah.
So you're forcibly putting your viewpoint in other people's minds and not changing that fact?
I'm not forcing anything. It's
like
that
there's people that live on Sentinel Island that have no idea who the God of the Bible is.
That's a lie. That's a lie. Everyone knows the God of the Bible because the God of the Bible has revealed himself in creation so that he's obvious and plain that no one can rationally deny.
Well, if he misrepresents himself in Phoenician like manuscripts and stelae,
based on what
how
standard?
do we know he's
based on what standard?
Well, based on the standard of historical evidence.
But how do you know what's true or false? What determines what's true or false? A human mind?
A
human
you cross-examine.
A human mind?
You correct. So your claim is that regardless of what anybody thinks or their interpretation of the world, it has to be the Christian God.
Well, something's going to be true.
That's
based
you're predisposition.
Listen
that's
to me.
Predisposition. That's illogical.
Something's going to be true. Facts are first interpreted by human minds, or
you are putting a predisposition.
And thank you for coming.
Mind.
And you can go to hell. Welcome, Myro.
Hello. So,
what would you like to say?
So, like, I'm Christian, but I have a basis on, like, how you can objectively prove that God is real and why it could be the Christian God or it can be the Christian God.
How do I... transcendental argument for God, where we'd say, like, the Christian worldview is going to be necessary to make sense of, like, the rules of logic, the rules of nature, or absolute moral rules.
No, mine doesn't really have to bring up religion at all. It can just bring up the idea of space, time, and matter. That will literally prove that God is real without any...
You're not making any sense to me.
Okay, I'm going to give you an argument that can prove God is real.
You have to tell me what's absolute. How do you account for logic without the Christian God?
I'm talking about God as a whole, not the idea of religion.
What are you talking about, dude? I prove the Christian God. What are you here to do?
I mean, so, like, number one, I'm Christian. I believe it's the most rational choice because of manuscripts and things like that, but you can't objectively prove it's the Christian God.
Okay. But I've been doing it all day. So are you calling me a liar?
I mean, so, like, respectfully, I love the work that you're doing, but, like, you keep on cutting people off and making fun of them, and they can't really grow in any single shape or form if you're, like, disrespecting them. Kind of like He made a couple of good points. You just got mad at him. You disrespected him.
Well,
You kind of.
if you can do it better instead of criticizing me, like a
I'm not
little,
criticizing you. I'm just.
oh, you're
Giving
not
you,
criticizing me. Okay. Well, Myro, I really, respectfully, I just want nothing to do with you. I don't want to talk to you.
okay.
You're really bad faith.
I'm bad faith because
Yeah.
I want to have a genuine conversation.
You're one of these like embarrassing Christians that I was talking about. That's unfortunate. And then these people. I already talked to you, bro. You want to do like a science debate? I'm not here to do a science debate. I'm here to do the
I want to
transcendental
address the
argument.
fact that you lied. You lied about the law of thermodynamics.
I didn't lie.
You literally did. It's applicable to all systems. That's why it's a law.
No. Okay. Here we'll say. Did I lie about this? We'll settle this. Okay. We'll see what the AI says. Welcome, Grace.
Hi. So, what I wanted to talk about is how science is a theistic concept. Can you give your point of view on that?
Sure. All scientists rely on something like that. That the idea that there's this rational order, that these patterns in nature that we can discern with our intellectual apparatus, and for that to be the case, we'd have to prove that the future resembles the past, that there are patterns in nature. Otherwise, we just have no evidence to think that the patterns were real. And so we need God to verify or explain that the patterns that we see in nature are real and not just a figment of our imagination, so that we can do science. I can't hear you when you're teacup. So I'm asking Grok, does the law of thermodynamics prove the universe is eternal, or would the fact that it applies to closed systems mean that it doesn't prove the universe is eternal? Did you hear what I said, Grace?
Yes, I heard you.
Okay, did you have a response or?
Yeah, it's just the same that science is solely based off of facts. The definition of theistic is the belief in one or more gods or deities. Like, that's literally what theistic means. It's just religion. It's just a word to describe religious concepts. And science is just studies done by humans to get more information, I guess. Like, the actual definition is the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against the evidence.
Yeah, and that relies on the principle of the uniformity of nature. And that there's no evidence for that. There's no scientific proof for that. We need the Bible to prove that. So that's why it's a theistic concept.
Okay, so I have a next question. Obviously, like, you think that science is a theistic concept for, yeah, whatever. So do you think that if an atheist made a bicycle, do you think that God made that?
No, the atheist lives in God's world. So whether the atheist irrationally denies God is irrelevant to whether the atheist can like know things and do science. Science is only possible if God exists. Atheism would make science impossible. But that doesn't stop someone from being irrational and doing science despite his beliefs making science impossible.
I'm sorry, how does atheism make science impossible when only 51% of scientists believe in God?
Well, it doesn't matter, again, what scientists believe. It matters what we can prove. So if we do a thought experiment, and we say, like, what if atheism is true? If atheism is true, then the universe is a product of chance. And by chance, I mean it's unintentional or not. There's no intention behind the universe. It's accidental. And in an accidental universe, science would be impossible. because there'd be no rhyme or reason for why anything is the way it is. Like, you wouldn't be able to say, oh, look, I see dark clouds, it's going to rain. There'd be no reason to connect dark clouds to rain in an unintentional, accidental universe. Everything would be accidental and meaningless, and there'd be no patterns. But that's not the world we see, observable data. That's why they say, the scientists say it's the illusion of design, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it looks designed. We treat it as if it is designed, but they just want to deny the designer because they're motivated reasoners, not because they're being rational.
Okay.
That's what's up.
Have you actually sat down with yourself and thought about the Bible from a different perspective, a more open perspective, like within your own mind?
You can't be open-minded. That's a contradiction. So no one is neutral to Jesus. You either submit your thinking to Jesus or not. You can't be neutral to Jesus.
You're saying being open-minded is weak?
It's a contradiction. No one's open-minded. Everyone has a bias. So the question then is, whose bias is correct? And as I've demonstrated here, that the Christian bias is the correct bias.
So do you think that being Muslim is incorrect or
Yes.
Buddhist?
Yes.
Why? What
Because
gives you the...
Because those positions make science impossible. They make truth impossible. So they can't be true because they're a contradiction.
Okay, but everyone has their own beliefs, and to sit here and say
So
that
what?
your religion is the only true religion is kind of messed up.
I mean, you could believe the earth is flat. So I shouldn't tell you. I should go, oh, well, you have your own belief. I shouldn't tell you it's a sphere.
Yes, you should respect people's beliefs instead of trying to force it on them.
I do respect people's belief. I don't try to force anything. This is just a debate that people volunteer to participate in. No
I
one
know.
has to participate in this.
I know. I'm just saying, dude, like,
Okay.
should just respect other people's beliefs. It's
I'm
like, I feel like
I'm getting North Korean vibes from you.
what exactly do you mean?
Are you North Korean?
No, I'm
Oh,
American.
weird. Weird. I'm getting like totalitarian vibes. Like North Korean vibes.
That's crazy because I believe in peace and freedom.
Crazy. I wonder why you have that, like, such a tyrannical vibe about you. I think I'm gonna make lunch though. Jose's requesting up. But thanks for coming, Grace.
Wait, one more question. How
Sure.
is abortion child sacrifice?
Because it's a sacrifice of a preborn baby to the false idol of like women's bodily autonomy.
That is a crazy accusation, dude.
The doctors even do a ritual. It's like a ritual.
Maybe a
child
funeral type ritual.
No, it's a ritual
You're
child
not a-
sacrifice.
No,
It's
there is
crazy.
not. People are not going to go abort their babies to sacrifice them to the devil, dude. Like,
Yeah, they do.
no, they don't.
For sure they do. That's what is more antichrist than sacrificing a child? That's like one of the most
Murder, rapists, which
Okay.
I've heard.
I have to abort you now. Forgive me. You can't say those words. So I just Googled. That guy said I was wrong about thermodynamics, right? So I asked Grok, does the law of thermodynamics prove the universe is eternal? Or would the fact that it applies to closed systems mean that it doesn't prove the universe is eternal? Grok says, the laws of thermodynamics, particularly the second law, do not prove the universe is eternal and, in fact, suggest it is not eternal when applied to a closed system. Here's why. The second law of thermodynamics in a closed system, entropy disorder increases over time, approaching a state of maximum entropy where no usable energy remains, thermodynamic equilibrium. If the universe were eternal and a closed system, it would have already reached this state of maximum entropy rendering stars, galaxies, and life impossible. The fact that we observe usable energy in ordered structure suggests the universe has not existed forever. Closed system consideration. The laws of thermodynamics apply to closed systems. No energy or matter exchange with an external environment. If the universe is a closed system, the second law implies a finite past. Otherwise, entropy would have maximized long ago. If the universe is not closed, for example, exchanging energy with some external system, thermodynamics alone cannot fully describe its behavior, but this is speculative as we have no evidence of such an external system. Implications for eternity. The application of thermodynamics to the universe as a closed system supports a beginning, for example, the Big Bang, rather than an eternal past. An eternal universe would require mechanisms to reset or avoid entropy increase, which are not supported by current thermodynamic principles or observations. So in summary, the laws of thermodynamics, when applied to the universe as a closed system, argue against an eternal universe due to the inevitable increase in entropy, pointing instead to a finite beginning. So look, I was absolutely 100% correct, and that guy just said I was wrong. He didn't know what the hell he's talking about. Once again. No, I've been debating this whole time. I've been dismantling people.
Hit me. How is it objectively proven?
So when you ask that question, you've got baked-in assumptions. One of those assumptions is that we use rules of thinking, rules of thought to prove things, but rules require a rule enforcement. Rules don't function without enforcement, like a referee in a sports match, like soccer. So rules of thought require a cosmic referee to enforce the rules of thinking, which I'm going to say is God, the Christian God specifically.
What? Hold on. What? Rules of thought require a cosmic referee?
Yeah, who enforces the rules of thought?
The consciousness of the individual?
But that doesn't make sense because the rules of logic are like unchanging, and people's minds are not unchanging. So what you just said is a contradiction.
No, it's not, because everyone's mind, even though it's changing, is still controlled by the consciousness of the individual.
Kieran, human minds are not unchanging. The rules of logic are unchanging. What you just said was a contradiction. If you refuse to accept that, then I'm going to put you in as a flat earther status because you are unreasonable. And I can't reason with you. You want to be a flat earther, Kieran?
No, I'm just saying what I'm saying. If you can engage with what I'm actually saying.
Kieran, I did engage, but Kieran, you're not engaging with what I'm saying. Kieran,
I'm countering what you're saying.
flat earther, you're bickering. Human minds are not unchanging, so they can't create unchanging rules. The laws of logic are unchanging. They can't come from human minds. If you're going to disagree, I'm just going to say you're a flat earther, and I'm going to move on. What do you want to do?
Why?
Because I said the unchanged. Do you remember the unchanging thing? It's a contradiction.
Yeah.
What you're saying is a contradiction.
No, this is what you're saying. I'm asking you why.
Because
you're saying the
human minds
is changing.
Do you think human minds are unchanging? What is the issue here?
No, I'm asking you why.
Kieran, do you think human minds are unchanging?
Sir.
Do you think human minds are unchanging?
No.
Okay, can you get an unchanging rule from a changing mind?
What does that even mean? An unchanging
it means
rule
you can't get a necessary truth from a contingent mind. That's what I'm trying to say in philosophical terms.
But you can. Gravity.
Okay, thanks for coming, Kieran.
Gravity.
Good luck on your flat earth. Welcome, Seek Truth.
How you doing, sir?
I do be fine.
Cool. So you said abortion is child sacrifice?
Hell yeah, it is. Yeah.
So why are you purposely misrepresenting a fertilized egg?
I'm not. What you're doing is it's called psychological distancing language. It's what criminals do, and like they'll say, "Oh, the the pew pew accidentally went off. I didn't intentionally, pew pew that person. It just was an accident. It's like distancing language. So let's just stop. Let's just cut the crap and admit what abortion is. It's a ritual child sacrifice to a false idol of the Antichrist.
Wait. How am I doing distancing or whatever it was that you referenced? How exactly am I doing that?
To call a ritual child sacrifice to the Antichrist like abortion is to use a distancing language to rid yourself of the guilt of sacrificing children to the Antichrist.
So, in your view, a fertilized egg is a child.
Preborn baby, yep.
No, I was specific, very specific for a reason, right? A fertilized egg is a child.
Yes.
So, are you aware of what molar pregnancies are?
No.
No, molar pregnancies, there's two types, partial and complete, right? So, one is where a sperm fertilizes.
Why do you want to give me a lecture?
I'm trying to tell you what it is, right? Because it's not a child. So why are you purposely misrepresenting a fertilized egg as a child?
Okay. You want to play definition games? All right, I'm going to make lunch. Thanks, everyone. I wish you well.